there. I'm Tina McElroy, Ansa, and welcome to Two Old Chicks Who Know a Lot of Shit. Second season, I tell you, episode one, season. And I'm here, of course, with my two old chicks partner and 50 plus year friend, Wanda Lloyd. Hey, Wanda, how you doing?
Hey, Tina, I'm fine. Who a new year and a new podcast season. Just look at us,
Look at
old
us,
chicks.
right?
I know,
Well,
right?
I mean, we say it every time, but every time we say the number of the episode, we have to go woo, because each episode is really, really kind of special to us. Each one that
That's
we make
right.
is a surprise, to tell you the truth.
Yep, yep. So before we go too far, how were your holidays?
Oh well, my holidays were quiet. My holidays were
Okay.
quiet, and they were really quite, quite lovely. And I had some good food, so that was good, and good friends. What about you?
It was good.
Yours
We
was
had
a
a
little,
house full of,
look, excuse me, yours was a little different than mine.
it was, yeah, the newlyweds were here. Shelby
Uh,
and her husband and his son, who's 14 years old. So we had a house full of folks. It's nice to have a young person in the house for the holidays. It's been a long time since we've had someone who was as excited about Christmas as most young people are. So we did some cooking, and Shelby and I went to see a movie. I'm just
Wait
going
a
to say
minute.
Journals for Jordan. Go see it. Go see it. Go see it.
Wonderful movie, wonderful movie. I
Yeah.
haven't
Yeah.
seen it, but we know the book is good. Well, Wanda, I have to tell our listeners that Wanda is an only child, and she has an only child. And I was telling her when she was saying that young man was coming also for Christmas. As I said, I don't know if you have enough food, and she says, oh, we have so much food. And then
Girl.
when she said to me, I called her, I said, what y'all doing? She said, girl, I'm on my way to the grocery store. I am buying my second, dozen eggs for the week, right? This is my second dozen
Yeah,
eggs. It was like, mid-holiday. So
that's okay.
it sounded like so much fun.
It
And like
was.
you said, newlyweds first Christmas.
Yeah, yeah.
That was nice.
So, and then we took a we just to remind our audience that we took a little break over the holidays. We gave you one podcast in November and December, but that didn't mean we weren't working. We had some meetings and conversations with our producer Kara, and to
And
put in
Wanda, y'all, let's open a spreadsheet.
it wasn't a spreadsheet. It was
We
it was
use
just a
we
Word document, a
use the
couple of
old one
emails.
though. We use the one that we had.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's right. We did. We did. But that's not a spreadsheet. That's just a document.
Oh
So
no,
we
I appreciate Wanda's spreadsheets. Let me tell you, it's gotten us where we are. We wouldn't be at episode one, season two without her.
so we put some new features in rotation, and we'll be launching one of them in this episode. So
We are really, really proud of this one because the ideas do come from us, and I think they do come sometimes from the ancestors. If I could ask the elder.
yeah, yeah. And so we have a guest to help us think about our hopes and dreams for the new year. Ready to get started, Tina?
I am indeed ready to get started. Um, we
Okay, hold
decided
on a second. We're going to introduce her in just a second. So, Tina, since we're in the new year, a new season, let's acknowledge that this is a time to think back a bit on where we were in 2021. And then we're going to really look forward to 2022 with our guest.
That's right. Wanda, we're starting a new year, and it reminds us of a lot of things. It reminds us of what we've been through. We want to recheck and reset and just look at where we are. It just seems like it's the right time at the beginning of a year, saying goodbye to the old year and on to the new one. And we're ready to say goodbye to the old one. I think everybody will agree. Last year we had another hard year with pandemic, with the deaths from the pandemic and losing so many elders and losing so many people. It was just not a normal, it wasn't a normal year. Being apart and trying to be safe and trying to continue. The biggest thing is, we lost a lot of people.
Yeah. I think we lost almost 400,000 people in the United States in 2021. And I don't think there's anybody who didn't know someone
Yeah.
who didn't know someone who or didn't lose someone themselves during the pandemic. President Biden likes to remind us that these are the people who left an empty chair at the kitchen table, the moms and dads and grandparents and cousins and siblings, and so many children are getting sick, and some of them are dying, unfortunately.
Yeah.
This isn't just a loss of life. We're losing so much more. We're losing wisdom and
Oh my
love
God.
and
Like,
family history.
like people, like the I think the preacher said, you go past the cemetery, and it's the richest place, in town, because that's where all of our riches and our treasures, recipes that, here's the holidays and nobody knows how to make mama's dressing and all the rest. Well, before we just go into this, what I want to do is, as we go forward, I want to introduce our guests. We have a very special guest with us. Wanda and I had talked about adding a feature called "If I Could Speak to the Elders," and we're going to add that. We're going to add that, but we've been talking just a lot about uh, the elders looking back and going forward. And we have someone with us today who is a perfect example of how you stand in your womanhood, stand in your wisdom, stand in your OGness, and and go forward. And who we want to introduce is Peachie Wimbush-Polk. Hi, Peachie. Can you hear
Hey,
me?
Peachy.
I can. I had to unmute myself. You guys are so amazing and so sweet to me, and I love you so much. Hello, Wanda.
Hey, Peachy. So glad to have you on. Good to see you.
Oh
Well,
my gosh, it's such an honor and a pleasure. Happy New Year.
Happy
Happy
New
New
Year.
Year
Happy New Year.
to congratulations on season 2.
Girl, look at us.
That was some shit.
Now, don't you see? This is a chick who understands us. She's the one. She's the one who gets us. So before we go on too much, because we'll just start talking, Peachie, I want to let everybody know who you are and actually why you're here. Peachie is her 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 children, her grandchildren, her people call her OG. And she told me this when we first met. I met Peachie on social media, and I just liked her. I liked what she was saying. And then I discovered, gosh, this is a woman in her own power. She's not only the mother of a rap legend, Wiz Khalifa, but and she stands in her own space and has been doing things in the world for so long, especially with young people, especially with care, self-care, especially with grief. I mean, you just cover so much, especially with joy. That's the other thing that I love about Peachie. And I met Peachie, so we met on online, and I liked her, and I thought she lived in Atlanta, and I liked the idea of Peachie, and she followed me, and she liked my writing, and we were just sort of those kinds of friends. And then in beginning of 2020, I lost my babe, Shanae Ansa, and I get this big package and this big old container of chicken soup and a big ladle and some
wow.
honey and some tea. And I mean, it was just the sweetest thing in the world. I had no idea. And I kept thinking, who could this be from? And it was from Peachie. And it arrived at just the right time. Spirit put us together, all of us. It arrived at the right time because I really needed it. And from then on, gosh, Peachie was my girl. So we're talking. As you know, Wanda and I edited the book, meeting the collection, Meeting at the Table. Is right over Wanda's shoulder. African American women write on race, culture, and community. And so we were, thank you. And so we were, collecting these wonderful voices. And I said, gosh, wow, Peachie is so interesting and so fascinating and has such wonderful ideas about living and life and loving. And I said, Peachie, I just asked her, do you ever write? And you know how I just kind of felt it. And she says, I'm a writer. And I was like, oh gosh, I did. Peachie delivered the last essay in the book. It's because we did it alphabetically.
Alphabetically, that's right. It's not last in content.
Absolutely. And Peachie
But it was last because I remember you didn't ask me until 2 weeks before the deadline.
Oh my God.
It was close to the deadline. Actually, it was. But the reason I hadn't asked before is because I just, you had never said, you shared with me the card. You have a deck of cards.
Mm-hmm.
What are they called?
Oracle card. They're a deck. It's called the Queen of Stones deck, and it's an Oracle affirmation card deck. Just some nuggets of wisdom, infused with some crystal energy, because I'm all magical and
you're all about. Oh, you're my magical friend. Yes, you're my magical sister. And so that's how we got together. She delivered the most beautiful essay, speaking directly to our young people and how we need to connect with them, how we lost so many of them, meaning lost the connection with them. It was just wonderful. So I say all that to say, Peachie was just meant to be in our circle, and we're so, so proud and pleased to have her. She brings a voice of hope, but also a voice of reason and a voice of experience.
May I add one thing about Peachie that I admire? Peachie,
Yes.
you're a veteran, so thank you so much for your service.
You're very, very
I'm
welcome.
married to a veteran, so as was Tina. So we always like to thank our veterans for the service.
Well, thank you guys for your service, because the families of veterans also serve. Please believe, as a veteran, I know and I appreciate that, and we wouldn't be able to do it without our support systems and our families abroad. But
all over the world, not having Christmas with their families, putting themselves in harm's way, all of that. We do thank you for your service, but we also want you to talk. I am going to shut up, because one of the reasons we have you here, Peachie, is to share you with the world, and our little, at least our part of the world. It's not little, our part of the world.
Yes,
and, we don't do resolutions around here, but we do want to go forward. So we wanted to just ask, what going forward, what are you thinking? What are you thinking for yourself, for instance, if you want to share that, but also for your community, for the world, for your audience, because you're writing. Peachie is also writing a wonderful. Can I say that? Oops.
I'm writing.
That's what we say. We're writing.
Well, she's writing. She's working on something, and it's really good. It's really good. Okay. I have to tell you one other thing. Peachie and I will be talking sometimes, and I'll say, "Did you just write that down?" And she said, "What?" I said, "What you just said." And she'll go write it down and said, "Oh, look, that feels good." I said, "Yes, Peachie. This is why we have our Post-its around. This is why we have our Post-its, so we can put down proud of my girl. So we can put down those nuggets. So tell us. Oh, and she's got a journal and all. Oh gosh.
I love you guys.
When you give directions to grown ass women, they really take it. And that's one of the things I love. I can divide the grown ass women from the fake ass ones, because when you give them some information, they take it.
Let's answer the question, Tina, because I've almost forgotten it.
What was the question?
You forgot it too.
I do know the question.
The question is, what am I looking for?
Yeah. Tell us about that.
Well, the first thing I want to say is shout out to spoonfulofcomfort.com. That is the website that I use to send you, and they have wonderful gifts. And who don't need a spoonful of comfort? Goodness gracious, who don't need a spoonful of comfort after the year that we just had? And I mean, the hits seem to have kept on coming. We have almost lost 1 million people since the start of this pandemic. And then we've got this new variant that really threw a wrench in a lot of holiday plans and a lot of gatherings that people had planned on taking place. And Wanda, you are so correct in, and I don't know anybody that hasn't been touched. We just buried one of our elders, my aunt, my 87-year-old aunt. We just buried her today. Today. She got sick with COVID over right after Thanksgiving, and her 96-year-old sister and her 80-something-year-old brother. So all of the elders, these are all of my sisters. This is my sister's father and their aunts, but they all passed this year? They all had COVID. But
COVID,
yes, but the one in the mid, I think she's older than him. But she was the middle child.
Uh-huh.
So the middle auntie didn't make it, and so
I'm so sorry.
it's just been it's been. I mean, you really, really, really have to be girded in your faith.
Mm-hmm.
You really, really have to be girded in your support systems.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be girded in your history. And this is what I'm looking forward to, because when we talk about elders like that, it has a humongous, it means so much. I'm like real serious about my job as a young OG.
What do you say OG stands for?
OG stands for your elder, the old guy, the old guard, someone that shows the way, someone that intervenes, someone that I've been reading Melodoma Somei's The Healing Wisdom of Africa, and also been doing practicing some looking back to figure out how to go forward. Looking at, my I was born into 4 generations. I talk about this in my essay.
You sure do.
So I knew my great-great-grandmother, who was born in 1891. Great-great-grandmother. That we called her great-grandmother. My great-grandmother Medea, who helped raise me. She was alive until I was 29 years old. Medea was born in 1915, 3 years before the pandemic, the last time. And so the first thing I did was call on them and say, how did the least of them, because Black women were surely at the bottom of every hierarchy.
That's right.
In that time period. How are we still there?
We still are medical.
How are we still there? Yes. But they had so little, but she was able to survive, not only survive, but keep her 2 children alive. So that I am here to sit here and tell you this. Woo-wee!
Yes.
I got excited about that. And then I start wanting to know more about her. And so that led me into an ancestry journey. Listen here. Our elders, and I consider myself one, I'm a young OG. Our elders are literally a living library of knowledge to be accessed. And we have gotten somewhere along the way, we have lost our way and lost our path. And when we should be ushering young people, we're the natural ushers of young people into they're coming from where we going, and we look like where they've been. So we are natural.
Wait a minute. Wait. Stop. Explain. Say that again. Explain that again.
Okay. So we look like where they just now came from.
Okay.
Okay. The angels on the other side. We look like that. We look like the angels on the other side, and to us, they look like the angels where we're going. So we naturally belong together. We naturally are supposed to. We naturally are supposed to direct, guide, provide wisdom to love, mold, recognize the genius, as Melodoma say, of young people.
I have to ask you here. Tell me, how do we do that? I think that there's a yearning in many elders, young ones or older ones, like seasoned ones like us, of wanting to share, of wanting to reach out. Is it as easy as just reaching out to young people? Asking them, can I, what do we do?
You really do you just talk to them. you really, you talk to young people. You don't, when you see them, just because they're a young person, engage them, because you know something they don't. You know something they don't.
Yeah.
But Peachy, why do we have to even say that? Why do we have to remind people, us or others, to talk to young people? Because young people, our elders talk to us all the time. Sometimes they talk to us, sometimes they shared things. Of course, they didn't share a lot of things, and that's a problem too. But they scolded us, they molded us, they took care of us, they fed us, they
reminded of us of where we came from.
exactly.
And how
Why are we at a point now where we have to? Why are we at a point now where we have to say that? Talk to the young folks.
Because just as in the past, and I say this in my essay, every time Black people rise up, every time we get something, every time we move forward, every system in this society rallies up to throw a monkey wrench in that. And the last big monkey wrench was drugs and the crack epidemic. These young people have seen stuff that there is a requisite period of innocence that children need to be healthy. And these young people have not had that. Their mothers haven't had that. So, because of in the 80s, when we were just able to work where we wanted to. Mm-hmm. My mother's mother couldn't work where she wanted to. My grandmother couldn't work where she wanted to. My great grandmother couldn't work where she wanted to. It didn't dawn on me until I became a 30-year-old mm-hmm. that these women didn't even have any agency, and they still prevail. But we have to use new tactics. That's why, Wanda, we have to use new tactics, because the obliteration of community, if we don't pick these young folks up, who?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. If it's not us, it won't be someone else. Right. And I think about even when we were in school, at least for me, I went to all segregated schools during the Jim Crow era. And so we had all Black teachers who didn't just teach us, they cared about us. You know what I mean? Too. They would yank you aside and say, look, you need to, act right, look right, be better. They would yank the girls aside and say, you need to put some different underwear on. And it would certainly not let the boys walk around with their pants sagging and hanging down and all that. But now, because we don't have that sort of what I call a village, I do wonder who is going to do it if the parents aren't doing it.
Well, actually, the elders, the grandparents need to, because the parents, there has been a disconnect. So many young people are parentless. There's so many parentless people in the middle.
Yeah.
20.
So many young people who've had to parent their parents.
Yes, who had to parent themselves and their parents and their siblings. My kids. My children's age, that generation.
I just was thinking the old guard, Wanda, you were just saying, I just saw a big fence, not a fence, but a stone fence standing up there, the last protection against the village, against, whatever the hordes that are coming, where there's no one, as you said, to even talk to the young people. That old guard sounds like a battle, something between the battle and the young folks.
We are it. We are the last. We are the last cavalry. We're the cavalry. We're it.
Yeah. Well, I certainly hope that my daughter and your children and all the children that we have mothered or in that generation who will listen to this podcast will say, wait a minute, we're not going to let them be the last OGs.
I hope so, because they don't care about a lot of the stuff that we care about. They really don't care, these young people let their Caucasian friends call them the N-word, and I just say the N, well, not call them the N word, but say the N word and that. Like, that's such a hard no. Like, do you all know? I mean,
I know you don't have words, right? You don't have words.
know that, and you know, but
Again,
they
we
don't know.
But I was going to say we don't have elders to say, what did you just say? You know, I can hear an elder saying that, stopping it right there. But it's not.
Some people are talking about, I'm not political. I remember going to go vote with Medea. I remember going to go vote with Medea. I remember going to work the polls with Medea. Because was the schools were closed, so they would, some of the polls were in the schools, so the schools were closed. So I like you, Wanda. I had Black teachers until I was in middle school. I didn't go. I went to the school in my neighborhood. It had a rich history. Very rich history.
So Peachie, we could talk all night about where we're going to go, but I want to talk about something else a little bit, because you're planning a big event in 2022. You're planning your Elevate and Glow retreat in Jamaica. Jamaica, girl, Jamaica. So tell us what that is and why Jamaica.
Well, it's always 420 in Jamaica.
Okay.
and my Elevate and Glow retreat is really how I plan to serve going forward. Going back to Tina's going back to the questions. It's what I plan on serving going forward. We're going to enjoy and experience plant medicine and sound healing amongst the waves and the ancestors and God and nature, and just really, really tap back into some indigenous practices, what kept our ancestors alive. Like this year, so last year I found out my maternal ancestry, my maternal African ancestry. My mother's people are Banaliki from Cameroon. Well, this November, I just now found out my father's people are Galoa from Gabon. So, I am really digging into who I am, and I'm digging into some of these ancestral practices, some of these traditional African communal ways of living. I really, really think that they are the way forward. I really plan on at mentoring and reaching out and just expanding my reach to people. A retreat saved my life 8 years ago, Wanda.
Oh my. Yes,
it did. It looked like I had it all. I did have it all. I had all the health problems. I had all the stress. I had all the bad habits. And I really credit it for me being here to have this conversation. And there is nothing that I find out that's good for your soul and your spirit and for women of color that I don't share. You
are the soul of generosity. As I started out to know, that's just how we met, and that's just what you do. You are always giving, and one of the reasons we wanted to have you on the show, you have so much on the episode, so much to give and so much to share. I urge people to look into your retreat.
We've got a few spots left.
Okay.
And your tell us your Instagram handle.
My Instagram is at OGJUSPEACHIE at OGPeachie at Instagram.com. And you can find information about my retreat. There are only a few spots left. When I say we are 3/4 of the way full, I am not exaggerating.
I can imagine.
And it's in June. It's in June. So
yes,
it's coming up, but you still have a little bit of time to sign up, right?
Yes. Well, and also, we're going to be hearing so much more from Peachie, because I know, when the time comes and the person arises, as they say, for that time, everything falls into place. And Peachie is one of those voices that should be magnified and embraced around the world.
I
Peachie, thank you
appreciate you
so
guys.
much for coming on.
Peachy,
I love
thank
you.
you. Thank you. It has been so great talking to you today. We
Yes,
know the
yes.
retreat will be wonderful and relaxing and refreshing and reviving. So thanks for joining us. And look, we are gonna have you back on. There's no question about that.
All right.
And I
Yeah.
want to, and we want to hear about the retreat after the fact.
I
So
want to come back on and talk about the
good.
foundation that I'm trying to start for,
Thank you.
in honor of Lala. So that's my other.
Oh,
my
okay.
super
Okay.
baby.
In honor of your child. That sounds wonderful. Okay. Thank you, Peachie. You're the
Thank
best.
you.
Thank
Love
you, guys.
you. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.
Well, Tina, I'm
Mhm.
so excited about one of our new segments. We call it "If I Can Could Speak to the Elders." Sometimes when you and I
We've been talking about elders the whole show, haven't we?
exactly, and sometimes when you are on the phone or we're on Zoom together, we're just talking, and one of us will say something about something that someone said a long time ago, and we go, if I could ask so and so, I'd ask them this or that. So we're gonna end this episode with this new segment because we know there's wisdom coming from the elders, whether they're here or gone. So
Yeah.
who would you speak to, Tina?
Well, the segment, as you said, is open, to whatever elder, whether it's an elder in your family, and your ancestor, or just in the world. And I'm gonna pick the first one who came to mind for me is someone in my family, and that's my great aunt, Miss Elizabeth Lee. She was my maternal grandfather's sister, only sister, and she lived in Macon, Georgia, which is my hometown. And she lived a fascinating life. She was a maiden lady. She never got married. She said she had lots of opportunities. As a matter of fact, she said Martin Luther King Sr. was someone she courted, and but they didn't get married. But the wonderful thing about Auntie Miss Lee was that she persevered, and she not only persevered through so much, she also laid the groundwork for me and my sisters and my mama, because I mean, in her lifetime, she went to Atlanta to Atlanta U to study. Of course, she was a very religious woman, and she always wanted to go to the Holy Land, but she said she couldn't go across any water. But all in all, she was a maiden woman. She took over her father's uh, my great grandfather, Pat the Barber, Pat Lee's barbershop, and ran it. This is in the 19 teens, 1920s. She was a woman, black woman, alone, unmarried in Macon, Georgia, running, who took over her father's barbershop, which was a very male, very male oriented business. But she also was a teacher. She started the first kindergarten in Macon, Georgia, for little black kids, the very first one. So she did all these wonderful things. But I look at all of her life also, and she lost almost all her possessions in a warehouse fire. And her, as you said, her father died, when he was fairly young, and she didn't have a family. She didn't have children, and she helped raise my mother. And so I say all that to say, I think anything I could ask her would be good for me, because she talked so much about the old days and what she did, and what she lived with her mother, my great grandmother, and took care of her, her whole life. And I just wanted to know, just Auntie, how did you do those things? How do you get through discouragement? And I know she would say her faith, but I'd like to talk to her long enough so she'd tell me some other stuff. I'd like to talk to her like woman to woman,
Right.
and really find out. That's what I would like. And she's the elder. Oh man, I honor her so much. She's the elder that I would ask, without a doubt.
Okay.
What was it like? How did you do it?
Miss Elizabeth Lee.
Yeah, Miss Elizabeth
Yeah.
Lee. What about you? Did somebody come to mind right away?
Someone did. We talked about loss in 2021, and someone we lost in 2021, not a relative. Her name was Carrie Harris, and she was a professional babysitter in her own home, a caregiver for children.
Uh-huh.
And she was the first caregiver for Shelby, my daughter,
Oh,
from the time I dropped her off when I guess Shelby was 4 or 5 months old when I went to work, back to work, and until Shelby turned 3 when we moved out of that part of the DC area. She lived in Fort Washington, Maryland. She died in May of age 80, but she influenced hundreds of young children from babies, after school care. She taught them things. Shelby really didn't need preschool because she knew her colors and her shapes and her alphabet and her words and the little songs and everything. She carried, she really had a little school in her on the bottom level of her home. And there was never a time when I came in that house to either drop Shelby off or pick her up when I saw things that were dirty or things out of order. Somehow she taught those children how at the end of the day to put their toys back in the box over in the corner in the playroom or whatever it was she asked them to do, they would do it. And so I would ask Carrie Harris, how did you do it? How did you have all those children? Not to mention raising her own three children. She and her husband died shortly after I met Carrie. He was a retired, I believe, police officer. But how did you do it? How did you make that happen? So the one thing that I will say about her is some of the podcast followers may have noticed that at the end of each episode, I ended by saying, love, love. Well, every time Carrie and I talked on the phone, and we stayed in touch all these years until shortly before her death, every time we talked on the phone, she would end the call by saying, love, love. And I thought she was just saying it to me. And when she passed away, I can't remember, one of her daughters may have posted it on Facebook. She said that to everybody. Love, love. So that I would ask Carrie Harris, how did you do it? How'd you raise all those kids?
Gosh, we kind of asking the same questions, that we want to do because we're in so much in awe of, of our ancestors, especially the ones that we knew personally, and we had that love. That's really wonderful. How did you do it? How did you do it? This points again to what we've been talking about the whole show. We call this two old chicks who know a lot of shit, and we did it for a reason because we are old chicks. We're elders, and we're happy to be elders, and we're happy to do what elders do. Just what we've been talking about on the show, what Peachie talked about, what Wanda's talking about, what Miss Carrie Harris, yes. Carrie talked about, all those things are the things that just buoy us and keep us up. This has been so wonderful. That's a new, the asking the ancestors is something new. And I didn't know when we came up with it would give us such joy. I have such joy hearing your story and we've been talking about Auntie. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. Well, we are, believe it or not, at the end of our first episode of 2022, Wanda. What do you think about it?
I think it was great. I think it was a great way to start off. And I always love talking to Peachie. So I'm so glad you found her on social media. I'm so glad you connected with her. I'm so glad you invited her to write for Meeting at the Table. And I'm so glad she's now going to be our friend on the podcast.
Absolutely. This is a good thing. Well, that's it for season 1. I'm sorry, season 2, episode 1. If you haven't already, as we always say, please subscribe to Two Old Chicks on Instagram. On Instagram, on Spotify, and also on YouTube. And tell your friends to, and your associates, and your boyfriends, and your ex-husbands to also, join in. I'm not going to even say what Peachie calls ex-husbands. You have to get the Meeting at the Table. You have to get the collection of essays. And
I do remember that now. Yeah,
remember now. Peachie is quite memorable.
Yeah.
And to let you go, we want to remind you that that you can always reach out to us and ask questions or give us, ideas for the shows. And also that, since we've been mentioning Meeting at the Table, our collection of essays by African-American women, thank you. You can also purchase it online at downsouth.com. downsouthpress.com. I want to get that right. Downsouthpress.com. We'll be happy to send you a copy. Well, whew, that's it. I think we did it. We did that thing, Wanda.
We did it. Let's say goodbye.
Bye-bye, everybody. See you next time.
Bye-bye. Love, love.
Love and peace.